Arrogant millionaire yells at black waitress. She replies with 5 words that shocks everyone. What would you say if someone humiliated you in front of a room full of strangers? Would you speak up? Would you stay quiet to keep your job? What if they screamed in your face, called you names, made it about the color of your skin, and smiled while doing it? And what if, with everyone watching, you only had 5 words to give back? It was 8:46 p.m. on a Friday when the man in the tailored navy suit slammed his crystal glass onto the table, splashing red wine across the cream-colored linen. The entire dining room froze. "Do you even speak English?" he barked at the waitress. His voice cut through the quiet hum of the restaurant like a blade. Plates stopped clinking. Conversations dropped to whispers. All eyes turned to the young woman standing before him. Her hands were trembling just enough for the silver tray to rattle against her palm. "I ask you something," he growled, leaning forward. His cufflinks caught the light, polished and sharp like the words in his mouth. "Are you stupid or just lazy?" The waitress, thin, black, no older than 23, stared at him. Her jaw clenched, but she didn't speak. The man laughed, low and mean. "Typical," he said, shaking his head. "This is what happens when you hand out jobs like candy." The silence was suffocating. No one moved. No one spoke. And then she did. 5 words, clear as a bell. Her voice didn't tremble. Her words didn't ask for mercy. They asked one thing. "Does your daughter know this?" His face went pale. Mouth open, frozen mid-smirk. From the next table, a young woman slowly rose to her feet. Everyone turned to look. Who was she? And why was she crying? 12 hours earlier, Jasmine Moore's apartment smelled like lemon cleaner and burnt toast. She sat on the edge of her narrow twin bed, tugging on the laces of her black non-slip shoes, trying not to think about how late she was. The ceiling fan spun above her in its slow, lazy rhythm, doing nothing for the August heat pressing in through the windows. Her phone buzzed once. A text. "Don't let them walk over you today. Love you, Mom." Jasmine smiled. Just barely. Her mom had a sixth sense for when she was spiraling. The text helped. A little. She pulled her locks into a low bun, checked her reflection in the cracked mirror by the door, and grabbed her apron off the hook. Another double shift at Hawthorne's. 14 tables. One manager who smiled like he was your friend and looked at you like you were furniture. But it was rent week. She didn't have time for pride. The bus was late again. As always. She stood on the corner of 53rd and South Grand, thumb tapping the side of her leg, headphones in but no music playing. Her thoughts were loud enough. 3 months into this job, and she still didn't feel safe. Not really. Not like she could afford to make mistakes. One wrong order, one irritated customer, and it was back to the job boards. Again. At 11:12, she clocked in, tied her apron, plastered on her practice smile, and tried to remember what it felt like to walk through a room and not be invisible, or worse, seen only as something to push around. Hawthorne's was upscale, the kind of place where people paid $50 for steak they couldn't pronounce. Customers liked it dim, quiet, full of soft jazz and silent servers. Tips were good on the weekends. If you survived the tone. She kept her head down, took orders, refilled glasses, smiled when told to. By 3 p.m., her feet hurt. By 6, her lower back was screaming. But she was surviving. Then Table 9 showed up. The reservation was under Lyle. Private party. 10 people. Big money. Jasmine saw him right away. The one in the blue suit. He had that way of walking that said the world bent for him. Late 40s. Clean shave. Sharp eyes. White. His watch probably cost more than her tuition. He didn't look at her when she set down his menu. Didn't say thank you. Didn't say anything. But she heard him laugh with the men around him. Loud, confident, as if nothing in the world could touch him. She didn't know his name, but she knew his type. She'd serve hundreds. He didn't see people like her. Not really. Jasmine took their orders, kept it light, stayed fast. His friend, red tie, loud voice, called her darling and winked every time she walked by. The man in the blue suit said nothing. But he watched. She felt it. Like cold eyes on the back of her neck. At 8:45, she returned with a bottle of red, pre-selected from their list. She opened it carefully. No spills. Poured for the head of the table. The man in the suit. He looked at the wine. Then at her. Then came the glass slam. Then the yelling. Then the silence. And those 5 words. Does your daughter know this? She said it without blinking. Not angry. Just certain. Like she already knew the answer. The man stared at her like she'd slapped him. Then, from the table behind them, a young woman stood. Blonde, about 20. Wide blue eyes. Tears starting to well. Dad, she said. The room turned. Jasmine didn't move. The girl stepped closer. Did you really just say that? She asked, voice shaking. No one breathed. Is that how you talk to people? The girl asked, louder this time. You told me to treat everyone with respect. You looked me in the eye and said that. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. The girl looked at Jasmine. I'm so sorry. And she ran. Out the restaurant. Into the night. The man stood there, frozen. The room was still watching. He didn't yell again. But Jasmine stood taller than she had all week. And she wasn't done yet. The door didn't just close behind the girl, it slammed. Glass rattled in the windows. Then came the echo, then the silence. The kind that makes your skin crawl. No one at table 9 moved. The man in the blue suit, Lyle, Jasmine guessed now, was still frozen in place, one hand half lifted like he'd meant to stop his daughter but forgot how to move. Jasmine could feel every heartbeat in her chest, but she didn't flinch. Not anymore. Her tray was still in her hand, the half-poured bottle of red resting on its lip. She set it down slowly, deliberately, on the linen-covered side table behind her. Lyle blinked, swallowed. Then, trying to recover, he gave a tight laugh, as if this were all somewhat misunderstanding. As if he hadn't just humiliated a stranger in front of 30 people, including his own child. Well, he muttered, smoothing down his jacket. Looks like somebody's feeling dramatic tonight. But his voice cracked on the last word. Still, no one laughed. The man in the red tie, the one who'd been calling Jasmine darling all night, cleared his throat. She's just a waitress, he said, glancing at Jasmine like she was a light bulb that had flickered too long and now needed replacing. And that was it. That was the moment Jasmine saw it in Lyle's eyes, the flicker of shame he was trying to smother. He looked past her, then through her, as if avoiding her gaze might erase the memory of what he'd said. He straightened, reached into his jacket, and pulled out his wallet. Cash, at least a few hundred, pressed into a neat fold. He held it out toward her like a peace offering. A bribe. Let's forget this, he said. Jasmine stared at the bills, then looked up at him, her voice calm. I'm not for sale, she said. Then she turned, picked up the bottle of wine she hadn't finished pouring, and walked away. She didn't cry. She didn't look back. Not even when the manager came rushing out from the kitchen, tie askew, face pale. The moment she passed the threshold of the staff hallway, her breath came out like a gust she'd been holding for hours. She leaned against the cold tile wall. Her fingers trembled again, but this time, it wasn't Faye. It was the weight of restraint finally lifting. Behind her, voices rose in a low hum. Chairs scraped. Footsteps. Confusion. Then the door pushed open. It was Casey, one of the other waitresses. Late 30s. Blonde ponytail. Faded tattoo on her wrist. She didn't say anything at first. Just handed Jasmine a glass of water. You okay? She asked after a beat. Jasmine took a sip. Nodded. You wrecked him, Casey said, almost in awe. I didn't mean to wreck him. Yeah, Casey said, but you did. Jasmine slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, knees up. I was just tired of swallowing it. The tone. The way they talk to us. Like we're not people. You're more people than that man will ever be, Casey said, sitting beside her. They sat there for a while, just breathing. Jasmine's apron was stained with a dot of wine, a splash she hadn't even noticed until now. It looked like a drop of blood. Somewhere in the distance, the jazz music started again, as if the restaurant had decided to pretend none of it ever happened. But something had shifted. Jasmine felt it in her bones. That morning, Jasmine hadn't known she'd make history at Hawthorne's. She'd only known she was exhausted. She hadn't told her mom she was behind on rent again. She hadn't replied to Malik's last text, her little brother, asking for help with tuition. She hadn't cried in 3 weeks, and that was a new record. She was just trying to survive. That was all. But then someone crossed a line, and something in her stood up. Back in the dining room, The air was still thick. Table 9 had thinned out. A few men murmured about getting Ubers. Someone cracked a joke, weak and awkward. Lyle didn't laugh. He was still at the table when his daughter walked back in. Hair a mess, eyes red, but standing tall. "Jasmine?" she asked, scanning the room. Someone pointed toward the staff hallway. The girl nodded and walked straight through the tables, ignoring the stares. She knocked lightly, then peeked in. Jasmine looked up from the floor. "You were right," the girl said. "He says awful things. He always has. I just didn't want to see it before." Jasmine stood. The girl wiped her eyes. "My name's Rachel." Jasmine nodded. "Jasmine. I just wanted to say, thank you, for saying what I couldn't." Jasmine didn't know what to say. She just nodded again. Slowly, Rachel opened her purse and pulled out a small card. "My mom runs a nonprofit in the city. Education Justice. I intern there. If you ever need a change, or anything, call me." Jasmine took the card, fingers brushing the paper like it might vanish. Rachel looked over her shoulder. "He'll probably try to make it go away, like he always does. But it's too late now." "What do you mean?" Rachel smiled. Sad, but with something stronger behind it. "Someone recorded it." The words landed heavy. "What?" "Someone at the bar. I saw them holding up their phone." Jasmine felt her stomach drop. "It's online already," Rachel said. "Posted about 10 minutes ago." That's when Jasmine knew. This wasn't going away. Jasmine's fingers tightened around the card. Her pulse ticked behind her ears, quick and uneven. She didn't say anything at first. Just looked down at the pale blue rectangle in her hand, the neat font that read Rachel Lyle, Outreach Intern, the Fairbridge Project. 10 minutes. That's all it had taken for the worst moment of her life to be uploaded, seen, and shared. Maybe laughed at. Maybe applauded. Maybe twisted into something she didn't recognize. She didn't even know what it looked like from the outside. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked. Jasmine's throat was dry. "I don't know." Rachel stepped back, giving her space. "I'm sorry if this makes things harder. I just thought you should know." "No, thank you," Jasmine said, voice quiet but steady. "It's just a lot." Rachel nodded. "I'll get out of your hair." But she hesitated at the door. "I spent most of my life thinking my dad was some kind of hero," she said. "But he only ever respected people who looked like him, acted like him. Anyone else was a threat or a joke." Jasmine listened. "I used to think I could change him," Rachel went on. "But I can't. He raised his voice at me once and called it a mistake. Now I've seen how he talks to people he doesn't need." She blinked. "And I'm not okay with it anymore." Before Jasmine could answer, Rachel slipped out the door. When she was gone, Jasmine leaned back against the wall and closed her eyes. It was all happening too fast. The moment she'd said those 5 words, she hadn't been thinking about going viral. She hadn't been trying to start a fight. She just wanted to remind a man who he was and who might be watching. But now the world was watching. Casey peeked in a few minutes later, phone in hand. "It's up to 12,000 views," she whispered, like saying it louder would make it more real. Jasmine's stomach turned. "Are people saying stuff?" Casey tilted her head. "Some of it's bad. You know how people are. But most of it? They're calling you brave." Jasmine didn't feel brave. She felt like she might puke. Half an hour later, the manager asked to speak with her. In his office, behind a closed door. "You really put us in a difficult spot tonight," he began, leaning on the desk like a principal about to lecture a student. Jasmine sat stiff in the metal chair, arms crossed over her apron. "I didn't do anything wrong." He sighed. "I'm not saying you did. But we have investors, regular clients, people who don't want controversy. So they want me to stay quiet next time someone calls me lazy? Or stupid? Or—" "Jasmine," he said sharply, "just listen." She went quiet. But inside, something cracked. "I'm not firing you," he said after a pause. "But it might be best to take a few days off. Let things cool down." "Unpaid?" He didn't answer. Which was an answer. Jasmine stood. "You know, for a place that prides itself on class, you all let a lot of trash through the front door." He didn't stop her when she walked out. Didn't say thank you. Didn't say goodbye. She stepped outside into the sticky night air. Her legs felt like cement. It was only when she was halfway down the block that she realized she still had the card in her hand. At the bus stop, Jasmine pulled out her phone. She opened Instagram, typed her own name into the search bar. Nothing yet. Then she tried Hawthorne Waitress. There it was, a video, shaky and grainy, shot from a bar. The caption read, "Millionaire screams at Waitress. She shuts him down in 5 words. Watch her face when she says it." Her face. It was all there, the flicker of pain, the shift into resolve, the moment her voice turned to steel. And then those 5 words. "Does your daughter know this?" Jasmine watched the man freeze, watched Rachel stand, watched herself become something else, something louder than she meant to be. The comments were coming fast now. Who is she? I love her. I want her to be my president. The way she says it. Chills. Anyone got her Cash App? Jasmine turned the phone over in her lap. She didn't know what this meant. Would it blow over in a day? Would her landlord see it? Would her mom? She thought about calling. But what would she even say? "Hey, Ma, I stood up to a racist and now the internet thinks I'm Rosa Parks with an apron." She almost laughed. Almost. Her phone buzzed. Another message. This one from an unknown number. "Hi, Jasmine. This is Claire Moore from WKN News. We'd love to talk to you about what happened at Hawthorne's tonight. Would you be open to a quick interview?" Jasmine stayed at the screen. Then another text came in. From Malik. "You a whole legend now. I'm so proud of you." She didn't know if she wanted this. She just knew it was hay. Across the street, a man stepped out of a black car and looked around. He was tall, dark suit, holding something close to his chest. A manila folder. He crossed the street toward her. "Miss Moore," he said. Jasmine stood slowly. "Yay." He held out the envelope. "You've been served." The envelope felt heavier than it should have. Jasmine held it in both hands, fingers stiff, like if she gripped too tight it might explode. The man who handed it to her was already gone, vanished into the hum of late-night traffic without a word beyond, "You've been served." Her first thought, this has to be a mistake. Her second, no, it's not. She sat down on the metal bench, the envelope resting in her lap like a stone. A thin line of sweat rolled down her back. Her throat was dry. Her phone buzzed again. And again. She didn't check it. Not yet. She just stared at her name printed on the front in cold, professional letters. Jasmine Moore. No middle name. No address. Just her name, alone in bold black ink. She opened it. 2 pages. Standard legal print. She scanned the first paragraph, eyes catching on the name Lyle Enterprises. Then character defamation, financial damages, and an authorized recording of a private individual. Then, finally, the line that made her stomach drop. "You are hereby notified of a cease and desist regarding any further public comment, social media activity, or interviews related to the incident involving Mr. Harold Lyle at Hawthorne's restaurant on August 1st. Her pulse thundered. "He's trying to shut me up." Jasmine blinked hard, forcing the words to focus. She flipped to the second page. Legal threats. Further action. Pending litigation. Substantial harm to reputation. Reputation. The man screamed at me in front of 50 people. And I'm the threat to his reputation? Her jaw clenched. She folded the papers, tucked them back in the envelope, and dropped it in her bag like trash. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she checked it. A text from Rachel. "Did you get served?" Jasmine stared at the screen, then typed, "Just now." Rachel replied instantly. "He's panicking. My mom says he's trying to get ahead of the story. Control the narrative." Too late. Jasmine typed. Then, without thinking too hard, she added, "Tell your mom I want to talk." She didn't sleep much that night. She stayed up on the couch, her legs curled under her, watching the video over and over. Not out of vanity, not even out of disbelief. She was trying to figure out what it was, this moment, this viral spike, this sudden attention she never asked for. Was she the girl who stood up for herself? Or was she the girl who said one thing and got lucky the world noticed? By 9 a.m., she had 17 DMs from reporters, 3 job offers, one of them probably fake, and a voicemail from someone claiming to be her reputation manager offering to guide the media cycle. She deleted it. Then came the call. Unknown number. But she picked up. "Miss Moore," a woman's voice said, brisk and clear. speaking. This is Claire Moore, no relation, from WKN News. I reached out last night. Right. I saw your text. Claire paused. I'm not calling to pressure you. Just, look, your face is everywhere now. You deserve a chance to tell the story in your own words before someone else does it for you. Jasmine hesitated. I haven't agreed to any interviews. I know, but let me say this. If you don't speak, they will. Lyle's people, his PR team, the spin machine, they'll frame it as a poor man's moment of frustration. Maybe even paint you as an opportunist. Jasmine closed her eyes. She could already see the headlines. Viral waitress with a vendetta. Exaggerated racial claim disputed by witnesses. Claire continued. We'll do it on your terms. Pre-taped. No ambush questions. I can even send you the questions in advance. Jasmine didn't answer right away. Why are you really doing this? She finally asked. Claire laughed, not unkindly. Because I've been where you are. A long time ago. And I didn't say anything. I let them take my story and twist it. I don't want that for you. That landed different. Jasmine rubbed her eyes. All right, let's talk. An hour later, she sat in her living room, hair pulled back, wearing a simple navy blouse. Claire's crew was respectful, quiet, professional. They set up lights, did a quick sound check, then gave her space to breathe. Before they started filming, Claire leaned in close. Don't speak to him. Not a word. Don't respond to his team. Don't comment online. Don't even blink in his direction. From this moment on, you own the story, not him. Jasmine nodded. The red light on the camera clicked on. And she began. I didn't set out to make a scene, she said, voice level. I was just doing my job, like I do every day. I work hard. I treat people with respect. I don't ask for special treatment, just basic decency. She looked into the camera like she was speaking directly to someone sitting across from her at a kitchen table. When Mr. Lyle yelled at me, it wasn't the first time I'd been talked to like that, but it was the first time I decided I wouldn't just swallow it. She paused. Let the words breathe. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I just asked a question, because I knew it would hit the one place he couldn't ignore, his own reflection. When the camera stopped rolling, Claire gave her a long look. You sure you've never done this before? She asked. Jasmine shook her head. First time. Claire smiled. You're going to need a good lawyer. That night, the segment aired. 3 minutes. Edited clean. Jasmine's voice steady and clear. Her words framed not as rage, but reason. Truth. Humanity. By midnight, it had over 1 million views. At 2 a.m., Jasmine's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A voicemail this time. She played it. Jasmine. It's Harold Lyle. She froze. I know what I said. I know how it looked. But we both being dragged now, and I think we need to find a way to put this behind us. Let's be civil adults. Call me back. He paused. Before this gets worse, for both of us. The message ended. Jasmine stared at her phone, then deleted the voicemail. She looked up. The envelope from earlier still sat on her coffee table. She picked it up, tore it clean down the middle, and dropped it into the trash. She wasn't playing defense anymore. The next morning, Jasmine opened her eyes to sunlight slicing across her bedroom ceiling and the sound of a dozen notifications pinging her phone like tiny alarms. Her name was everywhere. Not just on Twitter. Not just in her city. National. Morning shows. Podcasts. Think pieces. Memes. Waitress shuts down Millionaire in 5 words. Does your daughter know this? Harold Lyle's PR nightmare. The moment that sparked a movement. Meet Jasmine Moore, the woman who said what we were all thinking. Some of it felt surreal. Some of it felt invasive. And some of it, especially the angry, anonymous comments calling her another loudmouth playing the race card, felt like poison. But none of it surprised her. She'd lived in this skin her whole life. This moment was just louder than most. By noon, she had a lawyer. Rachel's mother, Camille Lyle, now going by her maiden name again, Bryant, called directly. Jasmine, she said warmly, but without pity. You're not alone. And you're not the first person Harold's tried to bury. Jasmine had expected nerves. Instead, she felt her shoulders lower, her jaw unclench. Thank you, she said quietly, for calling. And for Rachel. Camille didn't sugarcoat it. He's scared. That's why he's scrambling. Don't mistake the lawsuit for strength. It's panic in a suit. They met that same afternoon in a small legal office downtown. Nothing fancy. Just wood paneling, soft lights, and thick folders with tabs. Jasmine sat across from Camille at the polished oak table, holding a cup of lukewarm coffee she couldn't finish. Camille got straight to it. He has money, power, and a team of lawyers who think intimidation is just good business. But what he doesn't have anymore is the public. They're not with him. Not this time. Jasmine looked down at the thick manila folder labeled Lyle H. Incidents. She tapped it. How many? Camille didn't blink. 5. That we know of. 2 settlements, 1 complaint buried under NDA, 1 assistant who just quit last week, and 1 intern who's now willing to speak if she's not alone. Jasmine swallowed. She's scared. She was, Camille said, until she saw your video. By the time Jasmine left the office, her feet were unsteady, but her spine was straighter. She knew now. This wasn't just a story anymore. Outside, a small group of reporters were waiting. She paused on the steps, took a breath, then walked past them without a word. But inside, her silence wasn't about fear. It was choice. Let them chase the story. Let him explain. By late evening, Lyle's office released a statement. Short, sanitized. Hello. Mr. Lyle regrets that his words were taken out of context and apologizes to anyone who may have been offended. He remains committed to respectful dialogue and is exploring legal remedies against the recent social media attacks on his character. Jasmine read it once, then again, and laughed, just once, sharp and joyless. Later that night, she FaceTimed her mother. Her mom picked up in her nightgown, bonnet on, her eyes already glassy from sleep. Baby, she whispered, what is going on out there? Jasmine sat on her bed, pulling her knees close. It happened fast. I saw the video, her mom said, voice tight. You were calm, strong. I nearly threw my phone across the room when that man yelled at you like that. But you. She stopped. Her lip trembled. You held your ground. Jasmine smiled. I didn't think. I just said it. Her mom wiped her eyes. You said the right thing. Then she added, I've been waiting your whole life to see you take up space. That hit Jasmine harder than anything. Later, alone, Jasmine sat by her bedroom window. The city buzzed beneath her like a pulse. Sirens, laughter, car horns, someone playing a saxophone on a corner she couldn't see. Her phone lit up again. A text from Rachel. They are filing an official ethics complaint against him. My mom says it's going public tomorrow. Also, your video hit 5 million. Jasmine stared at the number. 5 million. She opened the post again, watched herself walk through that moment, shoulders tense, voice calm. It didn't feel like a victory. Not yet. Not really. But it felt like something had cracked open. A space. A silence interrupted. A door pushed back on its hinges. Then her phone buzzed again. Blocked number. Voicemail. She almost didn't check it. But curiosity, sharp and cold, won. It was his voice. Again. Jasmine, it's Harold. I'm going to ask you one more time. Stop this. You think this is some moral crusade. But it's not. It's a flash in the pan, and you're dragging my family through the dirt. I can end this. You know I can. A pause. I suggest you let it go. This time, Jasmine didn't delete the message. She forwarded it to Camille. And then she sat back, folded her arms, and waited. Because Harold Lyle had just made his biggest mistake yet. He threatened the wrong woman. At 7:04 a.m. the next morning, Jasmine woke to Camille's voice in her voicemail. Play it smart today, Jasmine. That message Harold left? It's not just petty, it's admissible. I've already sent it to the ethics committee. Sit tight. The pressure's shifting. Jasmine sat up in bed, rubbed her eyes, and stared at the gray morning light filtering through her blinds. She wasn't used to being part of a storm. But now she was right in the middle of it, and people were starting to move around her like they believed she could steer it. It scared her, but it also lit something inside her she hadn't felt since she was a kid, agency. Like her words mattered. Like the ground under her feet actually belonged to her. By 9 a.m., the Harold Lyle story had taken a sharp turn. Breaking, Business mogul faces formal ethics complaint after threatening voicemail leaks. That voicemail, the one he thought would shut her up, was already on the news, Camille's team having leaked it to 2 trusted reporters. Jasmine hadn't listened to it again. She didn't need to. She remembered the tone. She remembered the way his voice dipped into that spacemen like him always dipped into when they thought they were being reasonable while threatening you. Twitter exploded. You can hear the entitlement in his voice. This is why we record everything. He threatened her and still thinks he's the victim. The hashtags were trending again. #Justice for Jasmine. #Does your daughter know this? #Lyle resign. Harold's camp tried to backpedal. They issued another statement. This time, it included phrases like regrettable tone, learning moment, and we are all human. But the tide had turned. Even people who didn't know Jasmine were calling it what it was, a power play caught on tape. By noon, Jasmine couldn't leave her apartment. Reporters were at the front of the building. She peeked through the peephole and counted 3 cameras, one woman in sunglasses holding MIC like a dagger, and a man yelling into his phone about parking and permits. She backed away slowly. She called Casey. "You're not working today," Casey said before she could even ask. "Restaurants closed for maintenance." Jasmine snorted. "That's a lie." "Of course it is," Casey said. "They just don't want customers walking and asking for autographs." At 2:30 p.m., Rachel called. "He's furious," she whispered. "I wasn't supposed to hear it, but I listened outside the office. He's yelling at his lawyers. He said, 'She's a nobody with a phone and a big mouth, and I'm being treated like a criminal.'" Jasmine leaned her forehead against the cool wall beside her window. "Sounds like he still doesn't get it," she said. Rachel hesitated. "He won't step down. Not unless something bigger drops. But there's something I want to tell you, off the record." Jasmine sat down, heart already speeding up. "Okay." Rachel took a breath. "When I was 16, my dad fired a woman who worked in our office for 10 years. Claimed she lied about a report. But I overheard him say she got too bold after he made some comment. I didn't understand it then." Jasmine went still. Rachel kept going. "Her name was Ava. Ava Kinney. I found her online last night. She's a school administrator now in St. Louis. I reached out. She remembered him. She said she'd testify." Jasmine exhaled slowly. "That's a pattern." "Yeah," Rachel said. "And patterns get people fired." By evening, Camille's legal team had built a timeline. 5 incidents, 3 settlements, 1 complaint with audio, and now, Jasmine's case, backed by a voicemail and millions of witnesses. They didn't call it a media scandal anymore. They called it a liability crisis. At 7:45 p.m., Jasmine's phone rang again. This time, it was a number she recognized. Malik. Her little brother's voice hit her like a wave. "Yo, you're everywhere," he said, laughing. "People at school are talking about you. Like, my friends saw the video before I even told them you were my sister." Jasmine smiled. "For real this time. You embarrassed or proud?" "Both," he said. "Mostly proud. You looked like you were made for that moment." She got quiet. "I didn't feel made for it," she said. "Doesn't matter how you felt," Malik said. "You showed up. That's all people needed." After the call, Jasmine sat in the dark of her living room. She didn't play any music. She didn't scroll her phone. She just breathed. For once, she felt like she had room to. At 10:17 p.m., Camille sent her a text. "Something's coming. Be ready tomorrow morning." Jasmine stared at the screen, then texted back. "Good or bad?" Camille replied with just one sentence. "That depends on Harold." The next morning, the headline was everywhere. Lyle resigns from company board amid public pressure and threat of legal action. And below it, a quote, "We are witnessing a cultural shift." Jasmine Maud didn't start this fire, but she refused to let it be extinguished. Jasmine stood in her kitchen, still in her robe, coffee half-sipped, staring at the screen. She didn't cheer. She didn't cry. She just whispered, almost to herself, "Good." But it wasn't over. Because that night, a new video surfaced. A clip from a security camera outside Hawthorne's. A second angle. A moment no one had seen yet. It showed Harold walking toward Jasmine after the incident. Not yelling, smiling, and saying something too low for the audio to catch. But Jasmine's face in the video said it all. Then came the new caption. What did he say after the 5 words? The new video hit the internet like a fresh explosion. Less than 24 hours after Harold Lau resigned, it was trending across every platform: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, even LinkedIn. People dissected it frame by frame. The clip was grainy, Security-cam footage from Hawthorne's side entrance. The angle was bad, the lighting worse. But it was unmistakably Harold. And Jasmine, just after she'd walked away from Table 9. In the clip, she's standing by the alley exit, clutching her wine-stained apron. Harold approaches from behind. He touches her arm, lightly, but uninvited. She turns, startled. He leans in. His lips move. She freezes. Then she steps back. Not scared. Not shaken. Just cold. Then she turns and walks away, leaving him standing there, still smiling. No audio. No context. Just 2 people in a moment thick with something unspoken. But everyone had theories. What did he say to her? Look at her face. That wasn't an apology. The audacity. This was after the yelling. She knew who he was the moment he smiled like that. Jasmine watched the clip in her apartment, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee gone cold. The light from her phone screen flickered against the wall like a flame. She remembered the moment, clear as day. She hadn't talked about it, not even to Camille. Not because she was afraid, but because it felt like poison. She hadn't wanted to give it oxygen. But now it was out, and everyone was watching again. The knock came mid-morning. 3 soft raps, not reporters. Too polite. Jasmine opened the door and found Camille standing there in a pressed black coat, folder tucked under her arm. She stepped inside without waiting to be asked. Jasmine didn't mind. You've seen the clip, Camille said, setting her things down. Jasmine nodded. Everyone has. Camille's face was calm, but her voice was tight. You remember what he said to you in that moment? Jasmine hesitated, then nodded again. Yay, I remember every word. Camille watched her. You haven't told anyone. No. Do you want to? Jasmine looked down at her hands. Not really, but maybe I should. Because it matters. No, Jasmine said. Because he thinks it doesn't. Camille sat down on the edge of the couch, resting her briefcase on her knees. Then you tell me first. Jasmine didn't flinch. Her voice didn't waver. He leaned in, she said, smiling like he thought he was being clever. He said, You're smarter than you look. I'm sure you'll find a way to cash in on this. Camille went still. Jasmine kept going. Then he winked, like we were sharing some inside joke. Like I was in on it. A slow silence filled the room. He didn't apologize, Jasmine said. Not once. Not then. Not ever. Camille stood. Then it's time we give that moment the weight it deserves. The next morning, Jasmine sat in front of a microphone for her first podcast interview. It wasn't live. It wasn't loud. Just a conversation. But this time, she brought the moment to light. I didn't respond to him when he said it, Jasmine told the host. But I wanted to say, no, I'm not cashing in. I'm cashing out of silence, of smallness, of swallowing it to keep people like you comfortable. The clip went viral within hours. Later that night, Camille called. He's going underground, she said. His legal team's gone quiet. No more statements. No more threats. Because he knows it's over. Because we're not done. And they weren't. Because a former executive assistant reached out. A black woman in her 30s, voice tight, asking to remain anonymous. For now. He used to say things to me that he didn't say around the others. Like I was a joke he didn't mind telling out loud. Jasmine listened. And so did Camille's team. The assistant had dates, emails, a paper trail. More than enough to prove it wasn't a one-time incident. It was a pattern. That night, Jasmine sat alone again by her window. She didn't feel victorious. She felt tired. But not the kind of tired that weakens you. The kind of tired that says, you moved something. That you matter. She looked at her phone. Another text from Rachel. Is gone. Out of the house. My mom changed the locks. Then another one, a few seconds later. Just so you know. I see you. And I'm not the only one. Jasmine smiled, eyes brimming. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. Because outside, the world was still loud, still messy. Still full of people like Harold. But now, it was also full of people like her. And more were finding their voices every day. Rain whispered against the window panes as Jasmine sat at her kitchen table, the morning news playing low from the TV in the corner. She wasn't watching it, not really. Her phone sat face down beside her coffee mug. Camille had told her to expect something big today, but Jasmine wasn't in a hurry. She was learning to let the world come to her. Still, her fingers itched. Her chest buzzed with that uneasy energy, the kind that came right before a new wave hit. It came at 9:32 a.m. Not a headline. Not a text. A knock. 3 sharp raps at the door. Not reporters this time. She opened it to find Ava Kinney, the woman Rachel had mentioned, the one fired by Harold years ago. She was taller than Jasmine expected, dressed in a gray blazer and jeans, no makeup, curls tucked beneath a scarf. Her eyes were steady. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. Jasmine stepped aside. They didn't shake hands. They didn't need to. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table like sisters who'd survived the same storm in different years. "I've followed all of this," Ava said, unwrapping her scarf. "I wasn't sure I wanted to come forward. But seeing you..." She paused. "You stood there, calm. You didn't let him take your voice. And that did something to me." Jasmine folded her hands in her lap. "You don't owe me anything." "I know," Ava said, "but I owe it to myself." She slid a flash drive across the table. "What's this?" "Emails. Old ones. I kept everything. The comments, the edits he made to my employee reviews, even the jokes he put in writing. It's all there. And there's more. Another woman. Not ready to come forward yet. But she's watching." Jasmine picked up the drive, heart thudding. Ava looked her dead in the eye. "You cracked it open," she said. "Now we finish it." By noon, Camille's legal team had what they needed to reopen 2 closed complaints. With Ava's cooperation, they filed a motion for public hearing against Harold's company. Not civil, not viral, legal. Jasmine didn't go back to work at Hawthorne's. Not because she was afraid, but because she'd outgrown it. The apron, the trays, the silent tolerance, it no longer fit. They offered her a statement of support and a quiet exit. She took neither. She just left. A week passed. The headlines shifted to other stories, other fires, but Jasmine's inbox kept filling. Not with attention seekers, not with fame chasers, with people. Black waitresses in small towns, teen girls whose teachers called them too loud, single moms fired for bad attitudes after speaking up. They wrote to her like she was someone they already knew. "I watched your clip in my car on my break. I cried. Thank you. You gave me the words I couldn't say. I wrote them on a post-it and put it on my bathroom mirror. Does your daughter know this? You helped me quit the job that was killing me." She didn't know what to do with all that. Some nights, she just sat with it. Other nights, she wrote back, even when she didn't have answers. And then came the panel invite. From Howard University. "We're hosting a symposium on power, race, and voice. We'd be honored if you joined us." She hesitated. She wasn't an expert. She wasn't polished. She wasn't used to being heard. But she said yes. The panel was packed. 400 people. Students, faculty, journalists, lawyers. Rachel was in the front row. So was Ava. And when Jasmine took the stage, she didn't bring notes. She brought memory. "I didn't grow up thinking I'd go viral," she said, eyes steady, voice low. "I grew up thinking I'd survive." She paused. But something happens when survival turns into courage. When the thing you're used to swallowing every day finally chokes you. And you spit it out, not because you want to be brave, but because you don't want to disappear. The room was silent. "Those 5 words," she said. "They weren't for him. They were for me. A mirror. A reminder that the people who make us small are often just scared we'll get loud." Applause broke like a wave. Not polite. Not performative. Real. Afterward, people waited in line to speak to her. Some had stories. Others just wanted to say thank you. A young woman with braids and trembling hands hugged her and whispered, "You reminded me I'm not crazy." Later, Camille pulled Jasmine aside. "There's a fund," she said. "People want to donate. We're calling it the Jasmine Fund. Scholarships for young women working their way through school. Safe workplace grants. You'd oversee it." Jasmine blinked. Me? Why not you? She didn't have an answer. That night, back in her apartment, Jasmine took off her shoes and sat on the floor. No cameras, no inbox, just quiet. She opened her journal for the first time in months. She wrote one sentence. I didn't just speak. I was heard. Then she picked up her phone. One new message. Unknown number. The text was short. Thank you. You changed my life. A. She didn't know which A it was. It didn't matter. The work was just beginning. Jasmine stood at the edge of the rooftop garden, looking out over the city skyline. The sun was setting, a slow orange smear across the glass buildings, casting long shadows that felt both calming and heavy. The air smelled like cut basil, fresh dirt, and possibility. She wasn't here for show. She was here to meet someone. The woman had emailed that morning, no subject line, no signature, just a sentence. I saw what you did. I think it's time I spoke too. Attached was a name Jasmine hadn't heard before, Danielle Rivers. She was in a photo buried deep in Camille's file. The first complaint, the oldest one, the one that never saw a courtroom. Danielle showed up 10 minutes late, wearing sunglasses even though the sun was almost gone. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. But she walked tall. She didn't smile, just offered her hand. You Jasmine. Yay. They shook. Danielle didn't ask how Jasmine was holding up. Didn't offer polite condolences. She got right to it. He told me I'd be nothing if I talked. That no one would believe me. He said, I make kings. You think I can't unmake you? Jasmine didn't flinch. He said something similar to me. Danielle nodded. That tracks. They sat on a bench between rows of raised garden beds. Tomato plants and sunflowers towered over them like curious guards. The world below buzzed with Friday night traffic, but up here, it was still. Danielle pulled a flash drive from her coat. 2014, recordings, internal notes. I was a junior staffer then. I made the mistake of correcting him in front of his partners. She handed Jasmine the drive. I'm done hiding, she said. But I want you to release it. Not me. Jasmine blinked. Why me? Danielle stared straight ahead. Because they already tried to ruin you. And you didn't break. That means they'll listen now. That night, Jasmine listened to the recordings. One was particularly sharp. Lyle berating Danielle for embarrassing him during a pitch. You don't correct the captain of the ship in front of the damn passengers. I was trying to clarify the numbers. You're lucky I even let you in the room. You want to be useful? Try silence. The fury wasn't the worst part. It was the smirk in his voice. Like humiliation was sport to him. Jasmine forwarded the files to Camille. She didn't add note. Camille would know what to do. By Monday, the final nail hit the coffin. New allegations surface against Harold Lyle, pattern of abuse spans over a decade. There was no spin left. The network stopped asking what really happened and started asking how long has this been happening. Jasmine's face wasn't the headline anymore. Now it was his. Now it was their voices. Danielle, Ava, the assistant, even a junior chef from Hawthorne's wrote an anonymous blog post. We all knew he talked like that. We just didn't know someone would ever say no. Camille's team filed a formal petition to launch a Department of Labor review into hostile work environments in elite corporations. Jasmine's name was on the petition, not in small print. At the top, the same week, she received an invitation from a foundation that focused on racial equity in the workplace. They wanted her on the board. Paid. They wanted her insight. They wanted her voice. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at the offer letter, the numbers, the mission statement. Then she picked up the phone and called her mom. You're not gonna believe this, she said. Her mom was quiet for a second. Then she said, yes, I will. And that was enough. Later that night, Jasmine opened the DM from the girl who worked at the gas station in Jackson, Mississippi. The one who'd written to her weeks ago. I told my manager off today. Not loud, not rude, just clear. He said, who do you think you are? And I said, someone who doesn't need your approval. Jasmine stared at the message for a long time. Then she replied, you don't owe anyone silence. Not anymore. She leaned back in her chair, phone warm in her hand. For the first time in a long time, the world didn't feel so heavy. It felt ready. And Jasmine Moore? She was just getting started. Rain came down hard the next morning. Not the lazy kind. The kind that made the whole city feel like it was holding its breath. Jasmine stood under the awning of a bakery on 14th and Reed, waiting for Camille. The city looked different now. Or maybe she did. A city that once blurred past her, faces, voices, names, now paused when she walked by. Some people smiled, others whispered. A few said her name, not like she was famous, like they knew her, like she'd said what they'd wanted to say their whole lives but never had the nerve. Camille arrived soaked from the knees down, holding an umbrella she clearly stopped fighting halfway through the storm. "I'm not made for this weather," she said, brushing her coat sleeve. "You're made for fire," Jasmine replied, smiling. Camille grinned. "You keep saying things like that, and I'm going to start thinking you're the one running this whole operation." Jasmine raised a brow. "Am I not?" They both laughed. But inside, Jasmine knew it wasn't a joke anymore. They sat at a corner table, the window fogged up behind them. Camille pulled a folder from her bag. "There's a publisher in D.C. They want you to write something. Not a tell-all. Not gossip. Your story. On your terms." Jasmine froze. "A book? They'll give you space. Editorial control. A proper advance. Real distribution. You'd write it. Your way." Jasmine didn't answer right away. Writing a book felt heavy, exposed, but she kept remembering the girl from Mississippi. The single moms. The messages in her inbox that said thank you instead of you should be grateful. Maybe telling her story wasn't about the spotlight. Maybe it was about the flashlight, shining it down into places most people don't look. "I'll think about it," Jasmine said. Camille nodded. "That's all I wanted." But her eyes said she already knew the answer. As they sipped coffee, Camille pulled her phone from her pocket and placed its screen up on the table. A news alert blinked across it. "Breaking, former Lyle board member flips, says company hid complaints for years." Camille leaned forward. "It's unraveling fast now." Jasmine watched the screen. She didn't smile. Not exactly, but her eyes steadied. Back at her apartment later that night, Jasmine opened her laptop. She clicked open a new document. Blank. No title. No outline. Just a single blinking cursor. She placed her fingers on the keys. Nothing came at first. Then, "I wasn't always loud, but I was always watching." She paused, then typed more. "I watched my mother swallow her voice to keep her job. I watched my teachers look through me. I watched customers speak to me like I was less than. And I watched people like Harold Lyle get away with it. Every single time." She exhaled, then wrote, "Until I didn't." She closed the laptop without saving it. She'd remember every word. 2 weeks later, she sat in a folding chair in the back of a high school auditorium in Newark. She wasn't speaking that day, just attending. The event was called Voices Rising. A grassroots youth group had put it together with nothing but borrowed chairs and one working MIC. A girl no older than 17 stood on stage in a denim jacket with a patch that read loud is MY language. She grabbed the MIC with both hands, stared out into the rows of plastic seats, and said, "We were taught that silence keeps us safe. But silence doesn't protect you. It just keeps them comfortable." Jasmine felt her throat tighten. She didn't know the girl's name. The girl didn't know Hayes either. But when the MIC was passed down the row and Jasmine stood to speak, someone whispered behind her, "That's her." She didn't deny it. She took the MIC and looked out across the room. Then she asked the question that started it all. "Does your daughter know this?" And the room went still. Not out of fear, out of recognition. Because this time, they all knew exactly what it meant. The auditorium emptied slowly. Kids with notebooks, teachers with clipboards, local organizers trading numbers like currency. Jasmine stayed behind, sitting on the edge of the stage, her heels dangling off the side like she was back in grade school. She was quiet, but it wasn't the old silence, the one that came from shrinking, from fear. It was something newer. A silence earned by saying everything she needed to say. Rachel found her there. She slid into the seat next to the stage and rested her chin on her arm, facing up at Jasmine. "You killed it," she said. "I said 7 sentences." "Yeah," Rachel smiled, and every single one hit like a brick through a glass wall. Jasmine looked out at the folding chairs, half-stacked now, one of them squeaking under the weight of a kid who hadn't moved yet. He just sat there, hoodie up, headphones in, but Jasmine could see it in his face. He'd heard her, and that was enough. Rachel pulled out her phone. Camille sent over the final copy of the class action draft. 34 names. All verified. Jasmine blinked. 34. More coming. Women. Men. People who didn't speak up because they thought they were alone. Your case made them realize they weren't. She handed Jasmine the screen. More et al. V. Lyle Enterprises. Class action civil complaint. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, wrongful termination, retaliation. Her name was at the top. Again. Only this time, it wasn't alone. Jasmine stared at the list of plaintiffs. One by one. Familiar names. Some she'd never heard before. But every name meant someone had finally stepped out from under his shadow. They want you to speak at the press conference, Rachel said. Way. Steps of the courthouse. Friday. Jasmine looked away. I don't know if I'm the face for this. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You've been the face of this since the moment you stood still and said 5 words that broke a man in half. It wasn't about breaking him. Rachel nodded. Exactly. That's why they trust you. Later that night, Jasmine lay in bed, laptop open, blank document staring back at her. She didn't type the speech. She heard it. She felt it. And when she finally put her fingers to the keyboard, the words flowed like they'd been waiting months to escape. We don't need you to believe us to be real. We don't need your permission to speak. We are not brave for surviving. We are brave for refusing to go quiet. We are loud now. Get used to it. She closed the laptop. She didn't practice in the mirror. She didn't pace. She just slept. Hard. Peaceful. For the first time in what felt like forever. Friday came. The courthouse steps were flooded with press, supporters, strangers holding signs. A woman held a cardboard poster that read, "Waitresses are watching." Someone else had scrawled Jasmine's words in block letters. Does your daughter know this? Jasmine stepped to the podium, wind catching her curls, the mic buzzing gently as the crowd fell quiet. She looked out, not at the cameras, but at the people behind them. And she spoke. I'm not here today to talk about Harold Lyle, she began. We've all heard enough of him. Small chuckle from the crowd. I'm here for the 34 names behind mine on that case. And the hundreds who haven't written their names yet. She glanced toward Camille, standing off to the side. And I'm here because silence was never protection. It was just postponement. She leaned in. We don't owe anyone our dignity. That belongs to us. We don't owe anyone forgiveness until they earn it. And we don't owe anyone our quiet. The crowd swelled with applause. Jasmine stepped back. She didn't cry. She didn't even smile. She just stood there as the chants began to rise. Louder, louder, louder. And just like that, she knew she wasn't a symbol. She was a start. The court ruling came down 3 weeks later. It didn't come with fireworks. No dramatic music. Just a 3-page document posted to the docket and a headline that hit the wire 30 minutes later. Lyle Enterprises settles landmark class action case for $18.6 million. No admission of wrongdoing. No apology. But they settled. They folded. They wrote the check. Camille called Jasmine before the headlines hit. It's done, she said. Not just in business. In the places that count. What places? Jasmine asked, though she already knew. The quiet ones. The ones where power gets traded in the dark and no one thinks it leaves a mark. Is out of those rooms now. Nobody wants the liability. Nobody wants his name on their board. Jasmine didn't cheer. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt clean. Like something had finally been scrubbed off her skin that had clung to her for years. Later that night, she walked through her neighborhood alone. No destination. No camera crew. Just air and silence and the sound of her sneakers on the wet sidewalk. She passed by the old laundromat, the corner deli with the buzzer that never worked, the mural of Harriet Tubman with her hands stretched out like she was reaching forward and holding people back from falling behind. Someone had added graffiti beneath it recently. Speak even if your voice shakes. Jasmine stopped and read it twice, then kept walking. Back at her apartment, her inbox held dozens of new messages. Not noise this time, invitations. A national civil rights conference. A TEDx event in Boston. A nonprofit offering her a community leadership grant. But one subject line made her pause. From Ms. Thomas, 8th grade English. Subject, still proud of you. She clicked. Jasmine, I don't know if you remember me, Ms. Thomas from Jackson Middle. I saw the clip, then the speech. I knew you had a voice back when you read that Maya Angelou poem in class and made everyone cry. You've always had it. Now the world hears it, too. Keep going. She sat there, letting it soak in. This wasn't viral anymore. It was real life. Rachel came by with Thai food, no warning. You're a whole public figure now, she said, pulling cartons from the bag. I had to bribe a dude with free tutoring just to get up your building without press spotting me. Jasmine smiled, legs curled under her on the couch. You want the spicy noodles or the ones that lie about being spicy? Give me the lies. I've been lying to myself all day about getting work done. They ate in silence for a while. Not the awkward kind. The kind built from knowing each other now. Really knowing. Stripped of politeness and fey. I think I'm going to write the book, Jasmine said, between bites. Rachel lit up. Yay. Yay. I don't want it to be about him. I want it to be about everything. The before. The build-up. The wait. Rachel nodded slowly. I'll buy 10 copies. I'll make my dad read it. He'll probably cry. Jasmine laughed. Good. They watched a movie that neither of them remembered the next morning. And when Rachel left, Jasmine walked back to her kitchen, opened her laptop, and clicked open the document she'd left sitting there weeks ago. She changed the title. 5 words. And she began again. This time, not as a waitress. Not as a symbol. But as herself. Jasmine Moore. Black. Woman. Loud. Kind. Clear. And absolutely unshakable. Because in a world that had tried to shrink her, she stood up and asked one question. And with it, she made an empire flinch.